So, welcome to the Thorpe St Andrew studio for some thoughts on the road to Emmaus. New background today? It's the road to Emmaus, just outside Waterbeach, which is our home village. I wonder what you think about when you consider the meeting on the road to Emmaus. There are two parts for me that stick out above all other glimpses of glory. Here is the first, in verse 15. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them. Or, as other translations put it, Jesus himself drew near. And the other thing that leaps off the page to me is that these two disciples didn't recognize him. I've never really got a handle on how or why Jesus disguised himself, but there are several times when he was seen and known, but not initially recognized. Mary meeting him, thinking he was the gardener. When the disciples are dumbfounded by the miraculous catch of fish. Is it because he looked different? Is it because he didn't want to be recognized, wanting to make the reveal at the right time? Is it that the people who had seen him crucified could not imagine seeing him again, and so would think that this could be anybody except Jesus? But there comes a point where his identity is finally known. So what does that matter to you? Well, think about it. When was the last time you walked along a road and spoke with Jesus, one-to-one? Have you ever struck up a conversation with a stranger? Are you sure it wasn't Jesus? Well, you might be sure, and you're probably right, but what if it was Jesus, but you didn't recognize him? What if you cut the conversation short and ran into your house to get the dinner on and missed the chance to break bread with the master? What if you settled for the lack of fish you'd caught and decided to ignore the stranger saying something about the other side of the boat? What if you didn't want to disturb the gardener because he looked busy with the rose bush? What if every day Jesus is making himself visible to us and we are not ready? We are not expecting to see him. We are so sure that he died that we just can't see his risen self. To be honest, I'm not sure I have an answer to all that myself, but this I do know in my heart. Jesus is risen, and there is no reason on earth that he won't pop up and visit me. And that being the case, I need to be prepared in my heart to see him and recognize him. I want for me and for you to be expecting to see Jesus, looking for Jesus, knowing that he may well drop in, and I want to be prepared to see him. Which takes me to the other point, that Jesus himself drew near. I often think of this discipleship life as a thing that we do. This visitation from Jesus leads me to consider that this is not something we do, but something he does in us. These people did not draw near to Jesus. Jesus himself drew near to them. They were talking about him, about the crucifixion, about the reported sightings. He was on their mind when he just drew near. In these days of social distancing, I want you, if you can, to see the 2-meter gap between you as the space where Jesus himself can draw near. You might be leaving a gap for your physical health, but leave that gap for Jesus to come in and heal all your spiritual health as well. In the pre-COVID days, we rushed around, crammed onto buses and trains, shoving and rushing our way through the shopping, squeezing into the queue for coffee, impatiently wondering why they wanted such a complicated order. Sprinkles? Really? Move it! I need my coffee! But now we find ourselves forced to make space. perhaps like those two disciples, were forced to take the long, slow walk home. And in that space, Jesus draws near. For all I know, he might have drawn near to loads of disciples that day, but it was only these two that made the space to meet him. I wonder how many others missed out on that moment with Jesus because there was no room for him in their journey. I wonder how often I leave enough space in my day for Jesus to draw near. I even worry about those times when he might have drawn near and I rushed on, not noticing. Let us never make that mistake. Let us always leave room for Jesus. Let us allow him in, recognize him, share bread with him, walk with him, talk with him, and live with and in him. In whatever we do, let us do it near him. Our last song that I chose for today is "O Jesus, I Have Promised." That speaks so often about being close to Jesus. And in the first verse, it says, "Nor wander from the pathway, if thou wilt be my guide." Let's sing together.